Hey y'all, Farmer Dre back at us. Another beautiful cold day here on the farm. The wind is blowing nicely. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and smash that like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget, hit that notification icon so you guys can be notified whenever I do upload a video. So today I'm going to talk about the 3 most common and biggest mistakes that I see other people do before planting their tomatoes. Watch my last video. You guys know that we were in here. This is high tunnel number 3. Getting the soil ready for planting, and the rest of the boys, they're out welding and stuff for the high density apples. We have 1,800 new apple trees going in the ground this year, so we went ahead to beat all the posts. Now we're welding the clips and drilling the augering out all the holes, so we go ahead and start planting hopefully by next week, Monday or Tuesday, get them planting those. But while they're doing that, I'm gonna be in here working up, getting this soil ready for planting tomatoes. These should have been already planted the first week of, the first day of April, but we're a couple days behind here, but it's not a big deal. So the biggest mistake that I see people do, and this is the most common thing before you plant your tomatoes or even in your garden, is not taking a soil sample. And this is the biggest thing, because if you don't know what's in your soil, how do you expect to fertilize and amend the soil later on when your plants are growing? So for example, let's say that your soil needs 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre, and you don't amend the soil, and then you plant your crop, and then you go ahead and run fertilizer through your drip irrigation system, and you're putting 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds a week on your acre of your garden, and you didn't amend the soil with that 100 pounds before you planted. So now you're trying to make up for that fertilizer that you didn't apply, so then your production is not going to be anything. So that's why it's very important to know what's in your soil before you even do anything. So I don't want to sound like the Geico commercial, but $15 for a soil sample can make you hundreds or even thousands of dollars if you know how to mend your soil right and do it the right way the first time. And a lot of times, even for me and or farmers, and it seems more like a hassle to take a soil sample, send it out to the lab, but for $15 you could 10x your production pretty much. So that's the biggest mistake that I see, is people don't do enough of the soil sampling. And even though if you have a 1,000 square foot garden, whenever you're taking your soil sample to be tested, you tell them, hey, this is for 1,000 square foot, 500 square foot, an acre, 2 acre, 3 acre plot of land. So the guys that do your soil sample from the extension, they work with everybody. I mean, even for a 10-foot strip, they can soil sample that, and you can take in as many soil samples as you like. For us here on our farm, with all the fruits and vegetables we do out in the field, we soil sample by the per acre basis. In the high tunnels, we soil sample by the square footage. So a high tunnel is 2,880 square foot, because it's a 30-foot wide by 96 foot long, so that's 2,880 square foot. So that's how we soil sample in here. And with the soil samples, then you get your recommendation on lime or the sulfur. If your pH is too high, then they recommend to add sulfur, and then if it's too low, they go ahead and recommend you to add the lime there, and then of course your NP and K. And then a lot of times you can do a micro nutrient soil sample. That's just a little more expensive, but the main nutrients are nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. Now to number 2, the 2 biggest mistake that I see a lot of people do is, after, let's say, you get your soil sample, then you spread out your fertilizer, then you have to deep plow your soil or just chisel plow it. So right here in this high tunnel, like I mentioned yesterday, this is a soil that's never been up, and it's never been in production, it's never been worked up, so it's virgin soil. And with this, it was grazed by animals, and we had a livestock on here, but the soil underneath has never been worked up, never been tilled up. And for the first time, even though if you're a no-till farmer, or if you do what we do, till the soil every year and just amend it as needed, that soil that has never been worked up, you got to go ahead and rip it up down about 16 to 2 foot down if possible. So you go ahead and try to air up that soil down there, because over the years with rain, snow, ice, and the soil gets compacted down there. And for your roots to get down deep into the soil to pull up as many nutrients as possible, then you got to have that air space underneath, and it's got to be loose soil so that your roots can get down into it. And the first year I grew strawberries, we grew 10,000 strawberries planted in 2019. And all I did is I disked the land and I didn't deep plow it. And then I had a hard time. First of all, it hurt my yield. Second of all, I couldn't lay my black plastic down. I had a bunch of issues just because I didn't deep plow that soil. So that's the biggest thing is, get down in there. It's gonna take a lot of work and energy. I was in here all day yesterday with our pallet forks on the front of the skid steer and just scooping it out like this. If I would have known, and next year I'm gonna do that, or this year I'm gonna deep plow even before we build a high tunnel, just because it saves more time and energy on my part, and then we can pick up a bunch of rocks and stuff like that. First time in your garden, if you're a first-time gardener, or even if you have a garden or a farm and you've never deep plowed your soil or ripped it up real nice and low, just do it, see how you like it. We do it all of our tunnels and it seems to be working great. And if you're growing tomatoes like us and you're growing them for profit, it really increases your profit at the end of the year. And it also helps out if you deep plow your soil with the soil moisture management. And there's so many more benefits if you actually air up that soil and you don't have that pan there, a solid pan of preventing your roots of getting down into that soil level. Alrighty, so for the third biggest mistake before you get the tomato plants in the ground, and this applies now, and it also applies to the first mistake that you make, is you take your soil sample and then you fertilize, and then you watch some of Farmer Dre's videos like, oh, he said if you fertilize, the more the better, the more the merrier, and you're growing some tomatoes. So, but the third biggest mistake I see is over fertilizing your tomatoes, and that can be even through your drip irrigation and whenever you are doing pre-plant. So with tomatoes especially, they do need a lot of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, but just in very conservative amounts, and that's why that soil sample is very important. But let's say your soil sample in here recommends 50 pounds of nitrogen, and I'm sitting here, well, if fertilizer is good, why don't I put 100 pounds? The more the merrier, why not? And then you're gonna plant your tomatoes, you put 100 pounds of nitrogen down in the high tunnel, you plant your tomatoes, you grow a massive 8-foot plant, and then you get 0 tomatoes on it. Because it's out of balance, you got way too much nitrogen and the P and K, and then whenever you have too much of one fertilizer, then you get into the excessive amounts, and then you get irregular plant growth. Kind of like me, if I just meat alone and don't eat a salad or don't eat anything else, then I'm gonna, have troubles internally. Same thing with the plants. If you add too much nitrogen or too much potassium or too much phosphorus, then your plant's gonna be out of balance. So the thing is don't over apply fertilizers. That's the biggest thing that I preach on my channel, is use fertilizers for your tomatoes, use fertilizers for any crop you grow. But that's why that soil sample is there to guide you and help you out. Just because if you over apply potassium, then you're gonna get a small plant with a bunch of big honking tomatoes on it, and they're gonna pick about 5-6 pounds off that tomato plant, and the tomato plant's gonna just kind of die on you just because it put all its energy into producing fruit, and then you only pick 5 to 6 pounds and the plant just kind of it dies away. So that's why everything is in balance, and that's why the soil sample is so important, so it can kind of guide you. And I'm gonna make a video later on how to fertilize your tomatoes whenever they're already planted and you're growing them nicely, and just keep an even balance of that. But make sure you don't over apply, and don't say if a little bit is good, more is better. That does not apply to any crop, and if you do that, then you get problems into salinizing your soils. If you do that year after year, your production's not gonna be up there. You're gonna face a lot more disease issues just because the plant is very vulnerable to insects and diseases. So just keep everything in moderation, and that's why it's good to have guides like the soil sample. If you avoid those 3 biggest mistakes and you do everything right, then you're gonna go ahead and have a beautiful tomato harvest, and there's a lot of more educational videos to be made when it comes to growing tomatoes, and I'll keep you guys along here. And by the end of the summer, we will have 3 high tunnels full of tomatoes, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the tomatoes in high tunnel number 1. We picked and ate my first strawberry at high tunnel number 2. Those will be coming on, and of course we're getting ready to plant this tunnel full of tomatoes. Hopefully by tonight or tomorrow morning I want to have this planted, but we'll see. We're in no big rush. Tomato plants are 6 to 8 inches ready to go in the ground, and then of course we're gonna do about the rest of the hill here of vegetables and whatnot for the produce stand and the farm store. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming on here, and like I said at the beginning of the videos, we have a lot of fruit going on. We got the strawberries getting ready to, they're blooming out in the field, making sure those are nice and ready to go. But yeah, just don't make those 3 biggest mistakes whenever you plant your tomatoes in your garden or on your farm. All right, so these are the tomatoes in high tunnel number 1 here. These were planted the last week of February. I believe we planted the first week of March. Never mind, because we had a cold spell come through. The goal and the ideal is to plant them the last week of February. So these have been in the ground for about a month now. Just look at them. They were just 6 to 8 inch plants when we planted them, and now in a month, cold weather, look at this beautiful clusters of tomatoes. We'll be harvesting within 3 to 4 or 5 weeks from now. So not too bad, not too bad. We got 2 different varieties in here, 3 different varieties. We got the Red Deuce, Carolina Gold, and the Big Dina's there, indeterminate. And the rest of these are determinants. So if you do everything right before you plant, then your plants will look nice and healthy like this, and then you'll see 25 to 30 pounds per plant in production, and then you will be a happy farmer. Alrighty y'all, so this is gonna be pretty much it for today. If you guys haven't already, go and hit that subscribe button, go ahead and smash that like button. If you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget, hit that notification icon so you guys can be notified whenever I do upload a video. I wanna say thanks for watching up to this point. You guys have a good day, and we will see you next time.